Hey everyone, welcome to another Friday Q&A. If you're new to these, be sure to keep an eye out on my Instagram. That's how you get your question on the Q&A. I'll post a story prompt on my off days. These are just straight off of last off day story prompt. So without further ado, let's hop into some questions. First one, why didn't you compete at the Arnold? Good question. It was a simple, two things actually this year. Simple timing thing, first and foremost. This is the big one. The second that we walked off stage at the Olympia this year, it was like 11 weeks out from the Arnold. I had had a really long prep for the Olympia. I had had a really big off-season push before that. It was time to give my body a break. It just wasn't in my best interest health-wise to continue to push through to another show. And then secondly, pride myself on transparency with y'all. The Olympia was a kick in the dick mentally this year. So it took me a couple weeks to get my head right from it, and I really just needed to be with my people and, just get back to enjoying bodybuilding. So wasn't in the right headspace for it. And then physically, it was the best for my body to give myself a break. So that's why no Arnold this year. Definitely planning on doing multiple Arnolds in my career. Who knows if next year will be the first one. Don't want to commit to it now and be held to it like a year from now. So anyways, moving on. Do I eat crab or lobster? If I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a huge crustacean person. An occasional crab claw, yeah, great. But, I'm not one of those big seafood guys. If I'm going to go out and do I want to do a delicious dinner, I'm going to eat a steak, not a lobster tail. So that's my 2 cents on crustaceans. How big do you think you'll be at Texas and the Tampa Pro? I am very not stuck on a number this year. I am very stuck on showing up in a certain level of conditioning. That being said, if I had to put a number on things, I'd say somewhere between 252 and 255. So this year at the Olympia, we were 258, 259. So obviously needed to be sharper, much sharper. So I think it'll be somewhere in that 252 to 255 range. So looking forward to seeing what it is, though. All right. Whenever I train my hamstrings, they start cramping real bad. What should I do to stop them? So if you're consistently cramping in the gym and it's just your hamstrings, I might examine the exercise selection or the way in which you're performing your reps. There is such thing as too much of a good thing. If you're sitting there on the seated hamstring curl or lying hamstring curl and sitting there with them absolutely cranked as hard as you can get them for 2 or 3 seconds at the top of every rep, that might be something to consider not doing. Outside of actual exercise selection, if you're cramping regularly, I'd be sure that you're adding a good bit of salt to your pre-workout meal. You do need salt. It's critical for muscle contractions. If you're cramping, it's an improper muscle contraction. So make sure you're getting enough electrolytes, mainly salt. If that doesn't fix it, I really don't know what else it could be. It's odd it's just your hamstrings. All right. And people are really interested in vacuums. So I answered this in last Q&A, and I've talked about it a little bit on my Instagram. But for this sake of this video, I'll answer it real quick. Vacuums. First thing in the morning fasted, 5 laying, 5 bent over, 5 standing, pulling them all to failure, absolutely as hard as you can. It should feel like you're drowning at each of every one. That's the vacuum routine. What's your arm size? Last time we threw a tape measure on it, it was sometime in the Olympia prep with my dad, and it was 22 and a half. So they only 22s. I keep them clean, though. How long will I be in Jordan for? Yeah, so I'm going to Jordan next week to visit one of our very near dear friends, who is the owner of Cobb's, both a gym and a distributorship over there. So we'll be in Jordan for 5 days. Really looking forward to getting over there. I get tagged and stuff all the time from that gym and just Jordanian people in general, and I've heard nothing but good things about the country. So, really looking forward to that trip. But yeah, to answer your question, I'll be out there for 5 days. All right. Favorite ab exercise other than vacuums? Man, people, I don't know why y'all are asking me about my abs. My favorite ab exercise other than vacuums is just a properly done crunch with an ab mat, so the thing that gives you a little bit more spinal flexion at the start of your rep. And then, whenever I'm doing a crunch, I'm really just thinking about getting, the bottom of my sternum as close to the top of my pelvis as possible. That's what your abdominal is responsible for, is for crunching your torso down. So that's really all I'm focused on. That ab mat gives me a little bit more range of motion to do that. And then, once you get to the point where you can run 15 past failure doing it like that, put a 5-pound plate on your forehead and start progressively overloading it. All right. Take a couple more and then move on. Favorite thing you enjoy doing with Liv? Enjoy doing a lot of things with Liv, but one thing that just pops into my head off the top of my head is we are foodies. So obviously we travel quite a bit together, and whenever we travel, we like to try good food in whatever cities we go to. So, we like not only trying good food, but definitely we've gotten to the point where we enjoy going to restaurants for their decor, their ambiance, or whatever you want to call it, and tasting menus and this, that, and another. We like watching cooking shows, so it definitely a foodie couple for sure. All right, let's take one more, and then we will wrap up this Q&A. Let's find a good one. That's a good one. On rest days, eat lower calories since you're not burning as much, or eat more to load. I'm going to say this one's very dependent on what kind of phase you're in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. If you're in an off-season setting and you're trying to grow, I would argue that your weak body part should be the day after that off day to prioritize the rest and recovery you get from it, and that you should be eating on that off day at least as much as you do on a training day, like you said, to prime yourself for the following day. If you are in a contest prep setting, or you are just in a I want to get in shape for the beach mode, I definitely would advise reducing the calories, mainly in the form of pulling your carbs back on your off days. You have less calories burnt, you have less energy expenditure, you don't need as much food, especially if you're trying to remain in a deficit and lose body fat. So extremely dependent on what you're trying to do and what your goals are, so pay attention to that. On that note, I'm going to leave y'all. Appreciate y'all following along. Really enjoy doing these Q&As. As always, if you want your question answered, just keep an eye out on my stories on Instagram and get your question in on the prompt. See y'all next week.